My name is Josh Jacobowski. I am the Information Systems and Data Analysis Division Director for the Department of Local Government Finance. I really appreciate all of you jumping on this afternoon and attending this webinar. I'm going to be giving an overview of the Gateway portal and just kind of how that works and how that's set up for local officials and the uses that we have for it, as well as talking a little bit about the support structure that we have here at DLGF for the local officials and all the ways that you can reach out to us to get help from us on a variety of issues. Kind of what's the best way to contact us? What's the who can you reach out to? Who's your field rep that's assigned to your specific county or your specific unit? That sort of thing. I'm aiming for about 45 minutes here with the presentation. I really want to try and make sure that I save time at the end for questions. If I fail to do that, as Jenny mentioned, please make sure you type your questions into the chat. I won't be able to stop the webinar in the middle of it to answer those questions, but if I have time at the end, I'm happy to go over those. If we run out of time, it'll save those questions in there, and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I'm able to on your questions that you have. There's also situations where someone will ask a question and I don't know the answer right away. That does happen sometimes. I've got folks here, though, at the department who are a lot smarter than me and have been here around a lot longer and know things. So if I can't answer one of your questions right at the end here, I promise I will look into it for you and try to make sure I get you an answer as soon as I'm able to. I also wanted to make note of the fact that this particular presentation is geared a little bit more towards the newly elected officials. We're giving just like I said, kind of a very high level overview of Gateway and the different ways that you can access it or how you can go about getting that access, as well as some of the different ways to reach out to the department. So if you're an experienced local official, I definitely encourage you to stick around. You might learn something new, but this is going to be geared a little bit more towards the newer folks who are new to their position. Ooh, did that last time too. There we go. Okay. So before we get started, I need to read this disclaimer. This presentation and other Department of Local Government Finance materials are not a substitute for the law. We're trying to be as informative as possible here, but the following is not legal advice. It's just an informative presentation. Please take note that the Indiana Code always governs in every situation. Okay, so here's our agenda for the next, like I said, hopefully about 45 minutes. We have some different items that we're wanting to get to. For the past couple of months, I've been actually interviewing folks and conducting some interviews to have some new people come into the IS team. We have a number of projects we're trying to get off the ground and are looking to hire some additional programmers to help us get those software applications, like I said, kind of off the ground, get those projects moving. And one of the first questions that I ask folks, or at least want to gauge to see if they have heard of us before, is asking them, do you know what the DLGF is and what we do? And even if they don't know that right away, that's perfectly fine. That's not a requirement for the job or anything, but it helps me kind of guide the conversation that one of the major aspects of the DLGF is making sure that we provide a good support system for all of the local government officials out there. So my first few slides here, and starting this presentation, I'm going to be talking about the different support structures that we have in place here at the state level to help you in your job, because it's not an easy thing being a local government official, and we're going to do everything we can to support you in that and be here for you to answer questions and help you along with this process. So that's what I will focus in on at the beginning. After that, I have just a very brief history of Gateway. I think it's just a single slide, and talking then to you about some of the Gateway basics and how that all fits together, some of the different applications that we have on the Gateway portal, and where to go to access them. I'll also be talking about how to gain, if you do not have an account set up yet in Gateway, how to get that set up, how to gain an account, and then also to delegate access to others in your office or other people that you want to have access to the different submissions that need to be made to the DLGF through the Gateway application. I'll be talking briefly about the different deadlines over the course of the year and how to go about finding information on that calendar and kind of the process for when different things need to be submitted to the department, as well as looking at the DLGF website and specifically finding the memos that go into the detail on those deadlines and make sure that you know exactly what is due when, kind of a calendar for the rest of the year. I mentioned that we'll be talking about the different Gateway applications and how you can find those and where those are located within the Gateway portal. I want to spend a little bit of time, very briefly, just talking about what the screen will look like after you have submitted something correctly. So in other words, the affirmation that will appear on screen in Gateway, showing you that something has been submitted and is in the system now. And lastly, I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about the public side of Gateway. I think most people, well, quite a few people that I've talked to don't necessarily realize that Gateway actually has two sides to it. There's the sort of information portal where the local officials submit information to us, but there's another side of it too, the public side of Gateway, where anyone can go in and access different information that gets submitted to us and get a look at the data for their local government units. So I'll be spending a little bit of time on that, just kind of going through some of the different reports and the features there that are accessible on the public side of Gateway. Okay, so first up, as promised, I want to talk about just some of the different support features that we have here at DLGF. And if you've heard me give one of these webinars before, you may have heard me mention that I used to be a math teacher before I came to work for the state. I taught math for about 10 years. And one thing that I always made sure to do in my lessons was to highlight like the big takeaway for that particular lesson, or the big takeaway for that day, for that class session. I would say to the kids, you know, if you walk out of here knowing nothing else, make sure you know this. Well, in that same way, I'm going to tell all of you attending here, if you walk out of here knowing nothing else about my presentation, please know this. That first bullet point right there, support@dlgf.in.gov, is the best way to contact us to make sure if you have questions about anything, especially with Gateway, that is the number one way to get your question answered, is by sending an email to that email address. We have a whole ticketing system that once that an email arrives in that inbox, it goes into our ticketing system, and we have a process for then how that gets filtered out across the department based on who it needs to go to. Jenny and her team do a great job. They're at like our point of attack for when that comes in. Some of those questions they're able to answer just right away. Sometimes if it needs, someone from assessment to weigh in on it, they will make sure that gets forwarded to the assessment team and appropriately passed down to the correct field rep, or if it needs to go to the budget team, or if it needs to come to one of my team, either the information systems division or the data analysis division. This is really the best way to make sure that your voice is heard and that you get the support that you need. These next couple of bullet points are probably a little more specific to questions that my division handles, but it's extremely useful when we get screenshots. When we're talking about something not working on Gateway, or this isn't uploading right, or if you're having any kind of issue with Gateway or any other kind of application utilized here by the DLGF, it always helps cut through some of the back and forth if you can include a screenshot the first time that you send us that message. That way that we can, zero in on the issue at hand and make sure that we get that taken care of for you as quickly as possible. It's also helpful to include the URL or the website address of the page that you're having issues with. If you can include that as well in that email that you send into us, that is extremely helpful. I also recommend copying your budget field rep on their support requests. So when you email into that support@dlgf.in.gov, CC your budget field rep, as sometimes they will be able to head off questions and get you a response even faster if you copy them on the email. Sometimes that works very well. Now that sometimes the question doesn't necessarily fall on the budget side of things, so that's not always going to be the best way to go about it, but usually copying them is a good way to make sure that you get your question answered. We will make every effort that we can to respond within 2 business days of all support requests. I'm not saying that, especially if it's a something that's broken with the technology, that we can necessarily solve it in 2 days, but we will make sure that we try to respond to you so you know that we're working on it and looking at the issue and trying to get it taken care of as quickly as possible. Our goal, our business model is to do that within 2 business days. Some other reminders though with that, we only have so much manpower here in the office to work on these tickets as they come in. So it has to happen as a first come, first served basis. If we have 100 tickets come in, we're going to look at the one that came in first and attack that one before moving on to the second one, and then so on and so forth. Another thing is that we often see these email requests and these support requests dramatically increase when we get closer and closer to the deadlines. I'll be talking here about the deadlines a little bit, but I would highly recommend not waiting to the last minute on a lot of these submissions, because we tend to get a lot of emails asking for help in those situations when we're kind of closing in on that deadline. So if at all possible, I encourage you to work ahead and get things submitted early. That way, if there is an issue, we can attack it early and get it taken care of before that deadline occurs, and we don't get lost in the shuffle there of having all of these requests come in. There are a couple. So again, that support email address is really the best way to get a hold of us and make sure that we, if you're having an issue, that we are aware of that and able to get you some help with that. I also wanted to point out that here on our website we have the field or some maps up that sort of outline which field rep is assigned to your particular county and your particular unit. So I'm going to go ahead and click on one of those to bring that up. Sorry, taking a little while to load here, but it will bring up a picture of the state. Here we go. With all of the different kind of divisions, we've divided the state up into 6 different pieces for our assessment team, as we have 6 different individuals working as the assessment field representatives for those counties. So if your local unit is in Jasper, let's say it's in Jasper County, the assessment field rep assigned to you is Steve McKinney, and we've got his phone number and email address here where you can reach out to him directly to get help with that. The assessment field rep and the budget field rep assigned to your particular county is a great way. You want to get to know them. They're kind of the first line of defense, if you will, that will help be able to solve a lot of issues for you. So highly recommend, if you haven't reached out to them and made contact, I would recommend doing so. Again, this is on the assessment side of things. You've got these 6 divisions here. On the budget side, we've got a few more budget field reps, so it's divided up even more. And again, these links will be provided in the email that Jenny sends out to you, as well as on our website. But the 12 different budget field reps have divided up the counties as such. Again, this map should be available so you can look at it and determine what your budget field rep has been assigned to you so you can get the help that you need for any budget-related questions. Lastly, we have our data team inbox. So the data team deals with a bunch of the different compliance reviews that are done over the course of the year. We have the sales compliance review that we're working on right now and kind of getting to the later stages of in our process. We do spring compliance reviews, and then as well as fall compliance reviews on the data, on the assessment data that gets sent into us. So that all comes in through the data team inbox, data@dlgf.in.gov. So when you're submitting things to the data team, that is really the best way to go about it. And it's also a good place where, if you know it's a data question, something that the data team can answer for you, that's the best way to get a hold of us there, is through that email. Okay, so talked about all of the different support features here at the state. I'm going to now switch gears a little bit and get into brief history on Gateway and the portal. So launched in 2010, this actually predates my time here at the department. The Indiana Gateway for Government Units is the online portal in which local government units in the state of Indiana submit their required data. As I mentioned kind of up at the top of the presentation, that it has kind of a dual functionality. It's a way for the local government units to submit things to the state, but then we turn it around and also use it as a public access tool for our citizens, for our taxpayers here in Indiana, so that they can go in and look and find information on the local government units that they're affected by. I looked earlier this month and gave a count. It looks like we have 26 different applications here on the Gateway portal. Not all of those are assigned to DLGF. So you'll see here in a minute that I think on my very next slide, we actually have 6 different state agencies, excuse me, that utilize the Gateway portal to accept submissions from the local government units. So out of those 6 different state agencies, there are a total of 26 different applications that are utilized to help submit this information to us. Okay, as promised, here are the 6 different state agencies. So when you get logged into Gateway for the first time, you'll probably notice that the section for the DLGF is the largest section. It has the most applications in there. There's a lot of different things that need to be submitted to us over the course of the year, but there are also sections for the other 5 state agencies. I think probably the next biggest section is the State Board of Accounts. So there's definitely some things that need to be submitted to them over the course of the year. The IEERB, so Indiana Education Employment Relations Board, the Department of Workforce Development, the Indiana Gaming Commission, and the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Now, in this particular presentation, I'm only speaking for the DLGF and our applications and how you can submit things to us. If you have questions about what needs to be submitted through Gateway for these other agencies, I highly recommend you reach out to them and get a better understanding of that process and how that works. But the Gateway portal really just does provide a wealth of information that comes in through that portal. Data submitted includes budgets, debt issuances, TIP district summaries, annual financial reports, employee compensation reports, local development agreements, school district collective bargaining reports, among others. There's just, like I said, just tons and tons of information that comes in through this portal that we then organize and make available to the public. So I kind of hit on these 3 main functions already, but for the most part, what we're looking for here, or what Gateway helps have happen, as opposed to, we didn't have this in place before 2010. That's one of the very nice things about the internet, is that we've got a hub now for all of the local officials to submit their things quickly and efficiently to us. So that's priority number 1, or not priority, but that's listing there number 1, is that this serves as a place for local officials to quickly and efficiently submit that information. Secondly, another main benefit of having this Gateway portal is it is a place then for the state agencies to get feedback to the local units faster. We can automate our tasks and provide quick, meaningful feedback to local officials on that data. We have a lot of different software applications that are making things easier and making our responses quicker and more efficient through this gateway portal. And lastly, this serves as a centralized data source for the local government data and reports that are then made available to the public. So I think I mentioned, and Jenny certainly mentioned up at the top of the presentation, that we will be sending this PowerPoint to you in an email. It will also be available on the website so that you can just click on these links and it will take you directly to where you need to go to get into Gateway. But I'm going to walk us through in the next couple of slides as well, just how you can do that without necessarily having this presentation or having these links. But you can access the Gateway portal by going into gatewayifionline.org. Or another way to go about that is to click on or to go to the DLGF website, and then right up at the very top of the website we have a large Indiana Gateway banner. There will be a big Learn More button that you can just click on that will take you straight into the Gateway application. Once you're there, if you need to be submitting something to us, there'll be another button that I'll highlight here in a little bit. I've got some screenshots on the next couple of slides. You'll click on that Local Officials Login Here button, and that will give you to the other side of Gateway that allows you to log in and get things submitted to us. Finally, if you need to create a user account, there will be a button for that. If you're brand new to Gateway and don't have an account set up yet, that request authorization to access Gateway link will set up an email that comes directly into our ticketing system and will get you set up with an account for Gateway. So as promised, here is a screenshot of the DLGF website. So you notice in the upper left-hand corner there, the in.gov/DLGF. This is not Gateway, okay? This is just the DLGF website. However, we have a link here, and this was what I was talking about before. That Learn More button will take you directly to the Gateway portal. But these are two different things, two completely separate entities, if you will. That there's the Gateway portal and then the DLGF website. I'm going to be talking about both and utilizing both here in my presentation, but you can access Gateway from the DLGF website. So if you were to click there on that Learn More button, that would take you to this page, which is the landing page here for the Gateway portal. Now, this is just the public side of Gateway, is where that link takes you to. It opens up automatically on the public side. And as I mentioned before, in that upper right-hand corner, I've got a red box around it that says Local Officials Log In Here. If you were to click on that link, that would take you to a page where you can enter in your username and password and PIN to be able to then enter in and submit information to the state. And that page looks like this. So again, username, password. Once you get logged in there, it will take you to a new page that will allow you to submit different things to us. If again, this is your first time coming into Gateway or getting onto the portal, and you need to request authorization or request access to get an account set up, that link down towards the bottom that I've got the red box around will allow you to do so. So let's say you're a first-time user, you've never been in here before, you're needing to get an account set up. Well, there's some rules that go around setting up your username and password for that. So we have an authorized user policy, and again, there's a link to that here in the presentation. If you were to click on that link, it would take you to the policy document. But it says that an authorized user's Gateway email address, password, and PIN number is exclusively for individual use and should not be shared. We'll talk about this a little bit more when I mention the LDA application and how that's set up to work. But per this authorized user policy, we need to have one person and only one person who's in that submitter role for your local government unit. That person will be the one who gets everything submitted to us. It like pushes that button to get everything submitted. So there's some rules and guidelines for how we need to set that up. Per that policy, in order for an email address to be used as a gateway username, obviously the email address must be a working or an invalid email address. If it's not valid, then we can't use it to set up your account. It needs to not include the name, nickname, or initials of anyone other than the associated gateway user. So the person who is stepping into that submitter role we can't have other people or other names, nicknames, or initials of anyone else in that email address or in that username. It must be an email address in which the associated gateway user is the only individual with the ability to view any and all emails sent to it, so it can't be a shared email address. And it must be an email address in which the associated gateway user is the only individual with the ability to send emails using that email address. This just ensures that we're getting the correct information and the person who is responsible for submitting the data is the only one who then submits to us. So who is that person? Well, the department considers the fiscal officer of a unit to be the employee who all other employees of the unit ultimately report to. So in most cases, the fiscal officer is the default submitter delegating official for the reports located within the applicable department gateway applications. So it's not going to necessarily be, we have a way to set up give access to different people in your local government unit, in your office. We can give them access to the different gateway applications, but we can't give them submitter access. There's only going to be one and only one submitter role for your local government unit. So like, for example, if we were to have an independent contractor, someone outside of your particular office, an outside CPA, consulting firm, or consultant that the unit has hired, those are great to utilize. However, they cannot be given the submitting role for your particular unit. That has to be the person who is labeled as the fiscal officer. For special districts who do not have any actual employees, the department considers the president of the governing board to be the default submitter and delegating official for the reports located within the applicable department gateway applications. Please note that the fiscal officer is the employee of the unit who all other units ultimately report to. I think I mentioned that on the previous slide, but it's not necessarily referring to the employee of the unit who will be the primary person to enter the data into the department gateway applications. So just because you have that submitter role, unless you're just the only employee for your particular unit, you don't have to be the one to enter in all of the different information. You just have to be the one to make sure you look everything over and give it that final like check mark and submit it to us. But you are allowed to get other people in your office either editor access or read-only access to the different applications so that you can get some help in filling out some of these different forms that need to be submitted to us. So it is possible that the fiscal officer may not be the employee who enters in the majority of the data into Gateway for the unit. You can have someone else do that, and then you can check things over before it finally gets submitted through your PIN number and your username. I mentioned that if the unit only has one employee, then by default, they are the fiscal officer. I wanted to also make mention that the DLGF has probably a larger number of applications than any other state agency in there. The second is probably SBOA, and they may have a different way of naming their fiscal officer or the person who's kind of in charge of getting everything submitted to them. The DLGF fiscal officer might be different. If you have questions on that, or you need to know how to get things submitted to SBOA or their policies in doing so, I highly recommend you reach out to the State Board of Accounts and ask kind of who they define as their fiscal officer. So it is the responsibility of the fiscal officer to personally log into Gateway under their specific Gateway username to then submit any forms or reports located within the Department Gateway applications. That's with the exception of the budget's additional appropriation applications. However, if the unit is subject to binding review, then the head of the governing body is the default submitter and delegating official for the budget's additional appropriations applications. So again, it's that person who is in that submitter role has to give the final check mark to get that submitted to the department. Okay, I gave a couple of hints that this was coming in talking about this. We've got a new process in place for how we assign access to the different Gateway applications. The previous way of doing that was through a sort of paper and pen, if you will, paper and pen process through a form called the Limited Delegation of Authority form. We've since changed that from a form where people needed to fill out this form and submit it to us, and then we would go in kind of manually behind the scenes, get everything fixed from a permission standpoint. We've changed it from that form structure to having its own application on its own website. So previously, as I'm saying here on this slide, these would be filled out and manually submitted to the department. Most of the time, those would just be sent to the support at dlgf.in.gov, and we would then take it from there and kind of get everything fixed and in place. But we are no longer accepting those through the support or through email. The forms cannot just be downloaded from the website and sent in. We need you to go through the LDA website itself. So we launched this last year. So now that the application is live, the department is no longer accepting the paper forms. All LDA applications must be submitted through the online site. So if you haven't been there already, it's that link here again that will be provided in the presentation of gatewaylda.ifionline.org. We also have a user guide with the link here in this presentation and a link there on the website for the LDA that you can then click on. It will kind of walk you through some of the different processes for that. Jenny and I talked a little bit this morning, and I'll answer, or I'll get into that a little bit more towards the end of the presentation if we have time for questions. But we will probably be offering some additional help and kind of work with users on getting access to the LDA and making sure that's all set up correctly. However, on an annual basis, now that we have the LDA site in place and the LDA application is working as it should, all existing editor and read-only access permissions are going to be removed in early June. We're going to wipe the slate clean so that only those people who have the submitter role are in the system. And then a new online LDA submission is going to be required each year as we just kind of do a reset. So this was going to happen every June. It's going to happen on an annual basis. We will reset things at the beginning of the year. There will be some additional communication that we send out as we get closer to this, but we wanted to make sure we gave people the heads up on this now, because this is going to be, the application just launched last year. We're kind of getting things in place for it. This is something that's going to happen on an annual basis to make sure that we've got the permissions set up correctly for each local unit as we head into the budget season each year. Okay, so switching gears again and going back to the Gateway application. So I think where I left off in my explanations there with Gateway, with the Gateway portal, was when you would be logging into that last button, like the local officials click here or log in here or something like that. Once you are logged in, you would see something like this. Now I've zoomed in on just the Department of Local Government Finances section. As I mentioned, we've got the biggest section there with the most applications that involve different submissions that need to happen over the course of the year. But I put a red box around that deadline column, which just kind of gives you some additional detail on or at least a general idea of when these things need to be submitted to us. So that's one place to look to get a general idea. However, to get a more detailed look at the submission calendars, I highly recommend going out to our website. So I've got a screenshot here of going back into our website, in.gov/DLGF, and then clicking on that memos link there over on the left that I've got a red box around. And I apologize, I didn't update this screenshot from last year, but we do have the 2024 calendars posted under the memos section of on the DLGF website. So this particular screenshot is showing the memos from last year, but we do have 2024 posted. So there will be a link for the budget calendar, advising you of when all of the different dates are when things need to be submitted from a budget perspective. We have a 2024 assessment calendar when all those due dates are coming up and those outlines. We have a gateway submission calendar that the IS team puts out and a data submission calendar for each year. So it will look very similar to this. It will be under the 2024. So just when you click on memos, I think it will go straight into a section there where we are with our most recent memos, and you should be able to see these links available to these most recent memos. This is going to give you a lot more detail and is going to be a lot more accurate in terms of when everything needs to be submitted to us. So highly recommend you take a chance or take the chance to go in and look for those memos and get that information just solidified so that you have it as to when everything needs to be submitted to us. Okay, swinging back over in the other direction now, we're going back into Gateway. I want to talk about the different applications themselves and then who is really needing to get this information submitted to us. So there are 3 applications in which everybody needs to report something to us. So that is the debt management application, the economic development reporting, or the EDR, with that application, and then the file transmission, which is kind of a catch-all. It has a lot of different pieces to it of information that gets uploaded to us. I think contracts is a big part of that. But this is something where all units are required to submit information to the DLGF is in these 3 sections here. If you are a municipality or a county, those particular government units are required to submit information on their TIFs, and that is done through the TIF management application, which is all the way down there at the bottom. The due date on that is April 15th. I think we've got a memo going out in the next couple of weeks that will help walk through that process, but that is where you will go to get that information submitted to us. And then finally, there's 3 applications that are required only for the county level units. So specifically, the county auditor needs to input information regarding the CNAV and the Form 22s. So that is all the way there at the bottom. It's the most bottom of the 3 boxes there that I highlighted. That will be entered there at the data entry for CNAV and Form 22. The abstract application, which is going on right now, the different abstract submissions, that's where the auditor will click on for that. And then finally, the county assessor will click on that assessor reports link to be taken to the PDBOA and all the different assessor reports that need to be submitted on an annual basis. There is one link that we have down there at the bottom that refers only to the solid waste management districts, the SB 131 reporting. That is the link that I have highlighted there with that red box. Only refers to SWMDs. Okay, nearing the end of things here, I mentioned that I wanted to show a visual of what it looks like when something is submitted correctly through Gateway. So throughout Gateway, there will be multiple instances of affirming the information that has been entered. So when that is required, when the submitter needs to actually submit that data into the system, the 4-digit PIN that the submitter received when setting up the Gateway account will be needed. So you'll enter your name, the title, and then that 4-digit PIN number, and it will then get that submitted into the Gateway portal and sent into us. When you successfully do that, you should see that screen turn from yellow to green. Once that has happened, this is, green means go. It's good to go. It has been entered correctly, and we have received that information. So once you've seen that, once you see the box turn green, you are good to go with that particular submission, and that's what it will look like throughout the different Gateway applications that we have. Okay, lastly, I wanted to talk about just briefly some of the different features available to folks that are on the public side of Gateway and the different reports that people can look up. There's an awful lot here. You could spend a lot of time kind of going through some of the different options here, and I'm not going to be doing that here in this particular webinar. But I will look at that specifically, that report search feature. If you look at that blue banner across the top, we've got dashboard, report search, download, tools, learn more. The report search feature is a handy one for people to access information on local government units and the different pieces that get submitted to us. So the Gateway public reporting site offers a variety of reports to the general public. You do not actually need a Gateway account to access this read-only information. Anyone can do it as long as you know what the website is. You go in here, you go to the public side of it, the landing page, and you can browse to get to the different things that of whatever information you want to look up, really. Information contained in these reports comes directly from the data that has been submitted by the local units of government via the different applications. So if we were looking at that browse or that report search feature, that one of the first tabs, if you look kind of at the bottom there, we've got a bunch of different reports that they can just look up. There's the annual financial report, assessed value, information regarding budgets, employee compensation by unit, the entity annual report, local development agreements, and there's many more in there that you can look up and kind of get access to. Not only that, but there's also, if we're looking at that top there where we've got the browse reports, and then the next one, search by unit, members of the public can also do a search for a particular local unit of government and see what applicable Gateway reports are associated with that unit. So you just type in the name of that unit or the name of the reporting unit, and it will bring up the reports that that you can get for that are associated with that particular unit. So that is something that the public has access to. And then finally, members of the public can also enter a particular address to see what local units of government are associated with that address. So they can see, enter in their home address and see what local government units property taxes are where their property taxes go, essentially. They can then access those reports that are associated with those particular units. So I think that search feature that's typed in there with that screenshot is just the 100 North Senate Avenue. That's the DLGF home office. That's not going to return anything in particular, but I've tried it before. If you enter in like another address in there, it will show you down at the bottom of the screen the different government units that are located or that make up that part of that particular unit. Okay, I think that takes me through everything. Pretty close to that 45 minutes is that I was shooting for. I did want to take some time. If anyone had any questions, I'm going to try and do my best to answer some of those. I did want to, before getting into any of the questions, just mention that when Jenny and I were talking this morning, we discussed potentially having some like office hours for the new LDA application to give folks a chance to, as they're working on or kind of getting things set up within that LDA application, if they had questions, we would try to have like a live service where they could reach out and get some help from some folks here at the DLGF for that. So that will probably be coming up at some point, but we wanted to know if people were interested in that at all. So if that's something you would be interested in seeing, you can enter that into the chat here, or send us an email at some point, and we will try to make sure that gets set up for you. get into more LDA specific questions. But if there's any other questions about anything that I've presented here, I'm happy to get into those.
Josh, we don't have any questions right now, but we will leave it open for a few minutes for people to enter in questions. I do want to bring up a couple questions that we had that were submitted this morning. The first one is in regards to the difference between kind of the read-only, the editor, and the submission rights. The editor would be somebody that is working in your office to enter that data and assisting you with preparing the materials that you need to submit if you are the elected official. And then read-only is just that they have access to read the information that's been submitted. As far as the LDA and that kind of reset in June, that is an annual process, as Josh said, going forward. And the submitter access will maintain. That will stay in there. That will not change. It will only be associated with the read-only and the editor functions. So we will send out email before that, reminding you of that change. And then we will also send an email out after the change has taken place so that you can get that started. As far as the LDA, the submitter does have to approve anybody that's going to be requesting that access. So you do log into the LDA website URL that was listed in the presentation. And then you would go to approve access. There's three, you'll see three buttons. And so you would go into the approve access function, and then you would see the list of people who have requested that access, and then you would review that and then approve them. So it is very easy. We do have a user guide for those. As Josh mentioned, the office hours for the LDA, that would be something where we would not have a presentation. It would just be an open time for you to ask questions, have us help you walk through that LDA process and get you and your employees set up. One of the other questions that came in this morning was related to those individuals that are on a council, city council, county council, township board, any of those individuals where they are wanting to see what's in Gateway. It is up to you if you want to request the access or not, but all the information that they are entering in is going to be available on the public side almost immediately. So you would be able to see that information, so you would essentially have the same access to what is just saving you a step as to logging in or not logging in. So you would just need to, if you wanted to request access, you can through our support team. Otherwise, you would just have access to that on the public side and save you a step of logging in. If you do need assistance in finding something, please feel free to reach out to Josh or I or our support team, and we'd be happy to get you pointed in the right direction as far as what type of information that you are seeking, whether it be with DLGF. We can direct you to the other agencies that might also have information that was submitted, but we can definitely assist you with those questions. We had a couple questions come in, office hours for LDA. If you are interested in that, please send me an email or make sure you include your full email or your name in there so that we can reach out to you and assist you with the office hours. We will probably do 1 or 2 sessions where it's just an open time for people to ask questions and kind of have us help you walk through that process. Another question, if someone was appointed and approved, but for whatever reason is no longer employed, how easy is it for the new person to be approved to submit the data? The only person that can submit is the elected official. If that elected official changes, which we do have that occasionally happen, you need to contact support or your budget field representative and make sure that they are aware that there's a change taking place. And then we will get you the Gateway account set up. If it is somebody else, where they might be an employee or they were appointed where they would not be in the submitter role, but maybe would have need read-only or editor access. If they are in the LDA application, you can go in as soon as you wanted to and approve their request. They do need to have a Gateway account set up. So if they are going to be helping you enter that information as an editor into the Gateway application, they will need to request, as Josh indicated earlier in the presentation, request an account. We'll get that set up for them. Once the account is set up, they can request access to, or you can grant access to them through the LDA application. This helps you maintain control over who has access to your information and who is going to be in the editor and read-only access, and you'll be able to view those after, especially after June 1st. We are, the LDA application was not preloaded with those that are, that have access currently. If you need a list, you can reach out to your budget field rep, reach out to support, and we can assist you with getting that list of those who currently have access. I know that the budget field reps did some outreach earlier this year, depending on the applications that are going on. And so we can definitely help you with that. Okay, great. We've got some more people that are interested in office hours. So we will schedule some time. We'll send that out in the weekly email when we get those scheduled, and include those individuals that have sent in their email address for those that want some help. So as a submitter, just a reminder, as a submitter for the LDA, you do not need to approve yourself. You will already have access as the submitter to the applications. This is strictly for other individuals outside of the elected official or whoever is in charge of that. They're the fiscal officer and they're entering that information and submitting that information in Gateway. Those submitters, you do not use the LDA application. That is something that we need to go through and verify that. So just email support if there's a change in that. If you are needing assistance with another employee or somebody else within your office that needs editor or read-only access, those are the ones that you would use the LDA application for. So we'll leave this open for a few more minutes. So if there's any other questions that come in, we can get those addressed. Just as a reminder, we will send that email out with the presentation, the video, the survey, and the CE form later this week. And so you'll just need to, if you want the CE credit, you'll just need to submit that, fill out that form and then submit that to the appropriate individual or office. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Josh or I, and we'll be able to assist you with those. Josh, did you have anything else before we wrap it up today?
I don't. Thanks, Jenny. Very good.
All right, well, go ahead. Like I said, email us if you're interested in the office hours, and we'll be sure to get something set up here within the next couple of weeks to assist you all with that process. So please feel free to enter those into the chat, and we'll get in touch with you. Thank you all.